Hi friends, welcome to the Cripple Chronicles podcast, a podcast about a Lazarus frame's amputation and the journey to accepting and embracing disability. My name is Becca and I am your friendly neighbourhood cripple. Today's episode I am going to be talking about the friends that I managed to make during COVID, the support that I got from them, getting back in contact with my ex that I launched through the windscreen, how anniversary number 2 was, and kind of what it was like trying to get back out into the world a wee bit more. This is the third time that I'm having to try and record this introduction because I'm having some technical difficulties today. So hopefully I manage to get through this episode without pulling my hair out because I'm close to it already, and to be honest, with this recording, we're 1 minute 15 in, so strap yourselves in, I guess. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, please like and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, it is Cripple Chronicles Pod, and if there was anything you would like to get in contact with me about, please email me at cripplecchroniclespod@gmail.com. I've just managed to get through all of that in one take and I am very proud of myself. So before I ruin it, let's get into this episode. I think it was round about April or May of 2021 was one of the first times that I actually had properly left the house, other than going to physio appointments, and there was maybe 2 or 3 times just after I had got home after the accident that I had went out, and when I had the first frame on, I had obviously been trying to walk up my street a little bit more, but this was further. Ryan had said to me that we could try and go to the shop, so that's what we were going to do. I was a bit apprehensive because I didn't know how people were going to kind of be, I guess, and I had just decided I'd got like a big proper hoodie, and I was like, do you know what? See, if I'm going to go to the shop, people are going to be looking at me anyway, so I might as well wear my hoodie and be comfortable whilst I'm doing it. I think it was whilst I was going down one of the aisles, like a woman had stopped me and she was like, oh, what happened? And I was like, I'm really just trying to do my shopping right now, to be honest. I was so excited to get out of the house. It was so nice just to be in a shop again and be kind of picking up things. I got lots of snacks as a reward for going out of the house. When we were coming back, I think it's the Jacobite, the Harry Potter train, the line to like Oban goes past where I was staying. So just as we were coming back down the street to where the house was, we saw like the Harry Potter train go past, and I was just like so happy about that. It was also around about this time that I actually had started my Etsy store because I put quite a lot of work into it. Obviously, the art that I had done, I separated it into different sizes that you could get. I had found a company that would print it for me so that I wasn't having to buy a printer just in case people didn't actually buy it. I had looked at the costs and how much the printing was going to cost, how much the Etsy fees were, what kind of price was I going to have to list it at so I was making some kind of profit. And I mean, when I started, it was like £1, £2 profit, even though my prints were charged at like £10, £15 a print. After all of the fees, that was the only money that I got from it because I was having to go through different avenues because I wasn't confident enough in myself to go and make that purchase of buying a printer. The company that I had chosen to do the printing, I had sent them a few of my designs and I had asked for them in different sizes, and see, the first day that I got them, I was so proud of myself. It was such an overwhelming feeling to see that art that you had created was like there in front of me on like this high quality paper, that it was going to be framed and put on a wall. Like, I have behind me on my setup. Like, I have my friends' art, my own art, because I love it. It makes me happy, and like doing it was something that it meant something to me. Yeah, it was just a time where I was like feeling a lot more pride in myself of the things that I was doing, trying to get out of the house, making the Etsy store. I had mentioned before that I lost a lot of connections that I had before I had the accident just because of where I was at and where other people were at, and COVID, and just life in general, to be honest. Near the end of 2020, I was just sitting scrolling on Snapchat, looking at stories. There was someone who I had never really spoken to before, but she had said that she was looking for people kind of in like Glasgow. Didn't have to be specifically Glasgow, but to like make a group chat for people to make more friends. And I was like, okay, I am feeling quite lonely, so fuck it, why not? Like, I'll join this group chat. Initially, I think there was like 28, maybe 30 people. Like, there was a lot of people, and over the time, it kind of dwindled down to a smaller group. And I feel like with group chats, there is always some form of drama in some way or another. And like, it kind of just, normally it just fizzles out and then nobody's really friends after it. But I've managed to I found a really good group of people through that group chat. And whilst I was sitting thinking about this podcast and kind of the first year with my frame on, I'm really not sure how I got through it without having those people in my life. It is very hard to think of a time where they weren't there, because although not a massive amount of time has passed, I feel like I've known them my whole life. I think that's the thing, like it really helped me find my people. The reason why I am bringing this up is I had mentioned in a previous episode about my Etsy, and that my friends had been really supportive of my art and encouraging me to create a store. That was that group of friends that did that, and they had like one of my drawings as like their lock screen, and it was just kind of small things that really encouraged me to do the things that I was feeling passionate about. One really cool thing is there was a day where I was really struggling with the urges and the thoughts inside of my head that I wanted to hurt myself and I wanted to self-harm. And my way of distracting from that was I would draw something, and the image that I drew, one of my friends ended up really liking it, and B got it tattooed on her. Seeing that the first time when she came over, like, it was so wild to see something that I had come up with and it was on her body. Like, there is supporting your friends by telling them to create an Etsy and making their picture your lock screen, and maybe like buying a few prints, but like seeing something they did and liking it that much that you get it tattooed on your body, like, that is a whole new feeling of love from somewhere there, that somebody really liked what I had done. They had always said that the designs that I had did, that I should think about being a tattoo artist, but my hands are already shaky enough. Like, when I'm drawing on my iPad, I need to undo things so many times because the lines just aren't as clean as I want them to be. And you don't have that luxury when you're tattooing on somebody's skin, I don't think. And I'm somebody that if I had a wee shake and managed to make a mistake, right away I would be like, oh, or whoops, and that would give it straight away that I had fucked up, and the person that I would tattooing would be like, oh no, hen, I'm sorry, like, you're making me quite uncomfortable right now. So I don't think tattooing is for me, but doing something for your friend to then get it tattooed is a really fucking cool feeling. The people who were in the smaller group chat were from different parts of Scotland, and my friend Eleanor, that I had mentioned in a previous episode, she is from Leeds. So we were kind of dotted about the place. I had met up with a few of the Scottish girls, and being on FaceTime and things like that, even if we were just sitting not doing anything or not really speaking, it felt as if I had company, even if I was in the house alone. There was one night where a group of them had got together, they had FaceTimed me and like put me on the TV, and we were playing like Cards Against Humanity and things like that. So although I couldn't actually be there in person, I was still involved in some kind of way. It just made me feel so much less alone and so much less isolated, I guess. I mean, there was still a lot of that because the situation that I was going through, not many people could fully relate and empathize and actually put themselves in that situation. So I still felt alone in that capacity, but I was starting to find people that were showing me a lot of love and things that I hadn't had a lot of in my life. I think this time was really important and influential in my recovery. I was trying to get out of the house a bit more, even if it was infrequently. I was attending physio appointments and making goals, which I was managing to achieve with bending my knee and strengthening my good leg. When I had my last admission to the hospital, the physio had flagged up that she thought I needed mental health support. And I had mentioned that in the last episode that a doctor had phoned me and they had kind of set me forward for the mental health team to pick it up. I think it was maybe 5 or 6 weeks after that, I had an assessment with them where I told them about the struggles that I had been through in the past year and a half. Also, I touched on some childhood things. I had said the exact same thing to them as I said to the GP. If it was going to be a case that they were just going to tell me that it was a physical issue, that I couldn't hear it and I wasn't interested. And they had said, no, we're going to put you on the waiting list. So I started to feel kind of better about that. They had spoke about how it was going to be therapy around kind of coming to terms with loss and things from the accident and how I kind of move on from that. This therapy started around the end of May 2021. And I know I have already said that I haven't had any mental health support in the last 3 years. So you're maybe thinking, bitch, what are you talking about? Like, you said you didn't have mental health support. This was 5 initial appointments where they did the exact thing that I asked them not to do, and they basically told me that it was a physical issue. So I will actually kind of go through the 5 appointments briefly before I get to the point, because I guess it wasn't as blunt as maybe it was. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm trying to just don't know what I'm talking about right now. Shut up, Becca. Telling myself to shut up in the middle of doing a podcast where I need to talk, that's probably not a good idea. And usually I would cut this out, but I feel as the podcast is going on more, I'm just kind of becoming more comfortable. And this is probably what it's going to evolve into, so deal with it, I guess. Anyway, mental health support. In these 5 appointments, I talked about the things that I had felt since the accident. But like I said, we also started to talk about things that I had experienced in childhood that I never really felt safe enough to speak to a mental health professional about. Some of the things that I experienced are what I'm going to talk about maybe in a few episodes' time, as there's some stuff I want to touch on that crippled me before I had my accident and lost the use of my legs. So I had said that it's things that I hadn't felt safe enough to speak to a professional about. I had mentioned it once before when I was seeing a private psychologist. However, at that time they told me I had PTSD, but I was not at a point where I was ready to deal with the things that were bothering me. So I was literally having 4 or 5 panic attacks, being unable to leave the house, and I was just told, well, you just need to kind of get on with it. You're not ready to deal with it yet. This is a normal reaction to the things that you've experienced. Like, if it was a normal reaction, do you really think I would be in your office right now trying to get therapy to help me? No. We started to create a timeline of things that had happened in my life, and I was starting to realize that there were a lot of gaps in my memory. There's a lot of things that I don't remember from my childhood, and I knew this was kind of a theme because a lot of the times when I have memories of things, I need to ask my brother if they actually happened or not because they don't quite feel like they belong to me. I was realizing that there's a lot of that after the accident as well, a lot of kind of disconnect. There's a video that I'm going to kind of play later in this episode that talks about those feelings. It was kind of when I started going through this timeline, I realized just how blurry a lot of my life had been, and I think it was a scarier realization kind of last year when I realized just how much more gaps are missing from things in my life, especially after I had the accident. But I am also starting to realise that is a lot to do with the fact that I have a lot of complex PTSD that is piled up that I have no idea what to do with it and what to process, and therefore I don't have access to certain parts of my brain, which is very frustrating. So, in these 5 appointments, I was asked about various different things that opened a lot of doors and had me thinking about a lot of things. And it got to one of the last assessment appointments, and we were talking about coping mechanisms and things that I would have done previously when I was really struggling with my mental health. And a lot of those things had to do with being out in nature, hill walking, sitting by the water, going and hanging out with my friends, just getting out of the house for a bit. In response to that, they basically told me right now there wasn't anything that they could do to help me, and what would really help is when the frame comes off and I can get back out of the house. So at that moment in time, they were discharging me, but the door was always open if I wanted to come back when the frame had come off and things hadn't improved. And this really, really upset me. I can remember crying on the phone to her and saying, like, I really thought that I was getting somewhere with this. I really thought that after a year and a half that somebody was going to finally take me seriously, and I know that the door is not always open. I was a mental health worker. I know that my case is going to be closed and then I'm going to need to go back through the GP and the initial assessment and do this all again. And that is the exact point that I'm at. Like, I'm already 7 months of waiting, and when I phoned today, I was told again that they cannot tell me how long the waiting list is. So that door wasn't always open. I don't even think it was open in the first place. It was just made to look as if it was open for me to then go in and be totally blindsided and again not get the support. After I started getting the therapy appointments from the mental health team, I cancelled the ones that I had through the charity that was phoning me once a week because I thought, well, I don't need 2 calls once a week. In hindsight, that was a mistake that I made because after I got discharged from the mental health team, I then had nothing. And like the rest of my life, I just had to get on with it, process on my own, and try to break things down in the best way possible. After having my second frame put on, I really went through a bit of an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was or who I was meant to be or who I even was before, because I felt so disconnected from the person that I was before I had the accident, and I had so little memories and things to piece together from my life beforehand. I didn't know what was going on. And since a big theme of this episode is the support that I had from my friends, my lovely pal Elle, who sent the message that I read a few weeks ago that was about having an exceptional life when I have the attitude that I had, she had sent me something which I think really helped when I was struggling with that identity crisis and not really knowing who I was. What she had said to me was, after this, who you will be is kind of a mystery because you're not there yet. But at the same time, who I will be in a year is also a mystery. Who any of us will be in 5 years' time is a mystery. Anyone who can say, I know exactly where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing in X years isn't living right, in my opinion. But here are some things rooted in your identity: your compassion, your self awareness, your loyalty, your sense of morality, your ability to respect other people's voices, your love for your cat, your integrity, your worth, your sunshine AF heart. These things will never change. You are going to grow and adapt and mold into new versions of yourself hundreds of times in this life. And with that comes uncertainty and sometimes fear and confusion. But who you are is constant. You are Becca, and you are a gift to everyone that you meet. You are a friend, sister, daughter, a partner, and you deserve to feel all of the good things. This wasn't something at the time that I had asked from Elle. It wasn't something where I said, I need you to tell me that the things that you love about me. It was just part of a conversation where I said that I was really struggling with my identity and who I was. I really needed that at that moment. I really needed somebody to say, look, there are things about you that are not changed. And especially, Elle was one of two or three people that I stayed friends with from before the accident. She is somebody that knew me before this happened. I think it was really affirming in that moment that I was like, you are totally right. Those are deep rooted aspects of myself that aren't going to change, even if my body's going to change, my hair's going to change. Those things are my personality inside of me. I am really grateful for the accident bringing me closer to the people in my life that were meant to be there. Before I had the accident, I worked in care. I was a nurse, and I had met Elle when we were on a night shift together as carers. We weren't exactly besties. Like, we were close. I had a good relationship with her. I hung out with her and our kids. We went out for lunch. I remember her getting me a card when I graduated that it said, to Nurse Becca. I still have it. Her being there in high dependency and managing to put aside her feelings of fear. And I mean, going to see a friend that is lying there and looks so close to death and knowing that it could have been so much worse, like, that is a very hard place to put yourself in, especially when we didn't have a massively close relationship. But it made things, not to sound cliche, but it changed my life. Like, she showed up and she was there, and basically every week her and her kids come up to hospital to see me. Those parts of the day just brought so much light into dark times. It's very funny that talking about Elle leads on to this next part in my script, which kind of, if you're of spiritual belief and you kind of don't believe in coincidences and things. Me and Elle were literally talking about spirituality things the other day. She had said she thought she had a spiritual awakening, and the next part of my script for this episode is literally talking about the spiritual awakening that I think that I experienced kind of in 2021. I know some people might think that this kind of stuff is bullshit. To be honest, I don't really care because it is one of the things that saved me. Everybody has their own beliefs and their ways that they try to make sense of the world, be that spirituality or religion or physics and math. Everybody has their own ways of seeing things, and this is something that really kind of helped me. The thing that kind of brought it to my attention was I was on FaceTime with a friend and she was just starting to get into tarot and she was wanting to kind of practice, and I said, you know what, I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. Like, it was tarot and kind of fortune tellers like my mum used to go to when we were younger. So I was like, I'm kind of into it, I believe in that stuff, so why don't we do it? Through it, I nearly ended up crying because she had read a few cards and one of them had actually made me laugh, and I don't think she had even noticed when she was reading, because at the end of it she was like, why did you start laughing? And the card had literally said, at this moment in time, you are 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I was like, I literally have a full metal frame the length of my leg. So you're correct, I do have 1 foot out. But the other big thing from that was it had said that I manifest bad things to happen in my life. I always think of what the worst case scenario is, and I focus on it so much that I manifest those bad things to happen. And when I really thought about it, I was like, that is very accurate because of the experiences I had had being in accidents when I was younger. I had always said that within the first year of driving, I would be in a car accident. I never thought that it would be as bad, but I always said that it was going to happen. And when I got the first frame on and I was told that it was 12 to 18 months, I always said that, nah, it's going to be the 18 months, it's going to be longer, something is going to go wrong. And at that point, it really made me stop and start to think about the way that I was phrasing things and the way that I was thinking about things, because not everything always has to end in the worst case scenario. There is much chance of it going wrong as there is of it going right. And I think I was just so stuck because every step I took, I just kept thinking something is going to go wrong. Slowly changing my perspective on things and starting to talk kinder to myself really helped and made things easier for me. Before I had my accident, I hated myself so much that I didn't care. I didn't show myself the same compassion that I showed other people. I had to find the things that I love about myself in my life and embrace them and be patient and accept that some things are just shit and that healing takes time. When I started putting myself first and giving myself that little bit extra love and little bit less harsh judgment, I started to heal. I started to realise that I can't change the past, but I can start a new chapter and I can keep myself safe. It was something that my dad had said since I had had the accident. I'm pretty sure it was in a text, and he had texted me and said, at the end of the day, you are the most important person in your life. That is something that has really stuck with me. It has almost became a mantra for myself that I am the most important person in my life. I need to love myself so that other people show me that same gratitude. I need to respect myself and know the things that I'm not willing to just settle for. Sometimes people leave and that just means that they're not meant to be a part of the next stage in your journey. I am consistently trying to learn and grow and be a better person. I'm experiencing all new situations and taking things as I can and try to learn from them and try to improve. Without that, I think it would have been a lot more of a struggle after my accident to overcome things than it already was. If I had stayed in that mindset that things are just going to keep going wrong, that I am the victim in that situation, nothing was ever going to get better. If I just focused on what happened and why it happened and being angry about it, I was never going to be able to move on. No matter what life throws at me, I know that I'm going to be able to overcome and adapt because I'm a strong and resilient person. I have got through every single bad day to date and I can continue to do so. That's not to say that some days aren't hard and some situations take me longer to come to terms with than others. I'm surviving. I'm keeping my head above the water, even if I'm paddling like fuck underneath. It'll all be worth it because I'm going where I need to be and I have the people in my life that are meant to be there. I had started recording myself and talking through things. That was kind of one of the ways that I had started to process, as well as journaling and writing things down. But there is a few videos that I had found that I'm going to put them in this spot, although I think it kind of relates with the time point I'm at. They are round about September, October 2021. So I think there is maybe 5 or 6 videos. I'm going to kind of play them, talk about them, and then carry on with the episode.
I feel like this is so stupid, but I just went on my Snapchat memories, and it was 2 years ago that I got offered my first job as a nurse. Oh, my heart is really hurting.
That was the first year that it was kind of after I had lost my job. I still get that intense feeling sometimes because that's the grief, the reminders of who I was, all of the dreams that I had that I didn't really get the chance to fulfill. I don't know why I have all of these thoughts bouncing around my head right now, because I was really hoping that I was just going to smoke and then go to sleep and not feel any of the feelings that I am currently feeling. I don't know, like I'm just everything at once. Like I tore my bedding on my frame and that kind of triggered it because I was like, I'm fucking sick of this frame. But at the same time I have become so used to it that then the thought of getting it off, although that is the main goal, it fucking terrifies me because I don't know what my life is going to be like when this comes off. I don't know how I'm going to be able to walk. I don't know if I'm going to be able to work, if I'm not going to be able to work. Like, I'm so worried that this thing comes off and my life doesn't improve any, and I still can't really do much, and I need to go out in a wheelchair, and that's not how I imagined my life, and I don't think that is how I want to live my life. I can't depend on other people. And if I am like this permanently, then I lose a lot of my independence, and then that means I lose a lot of myself. 'Cause
And I'm not like, I keep thinking like if I just keep working hard, it won't be like that. There's only so hard you can work when things just aren't going to happen. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, except from just getting through the next day.
When I had looked at that video for adding it into this episode, I had actually only watched like maybe the first 30 seconds of it, and hearing myself kind of be like, I'm going to be in a wheelchair and that's not what I imagined for my life, and I lose so much of my independence, and it just makes me want to go back and hug myself, because I do live a lot of my life in a wheelchair now, but I still have my independence. I can still go out, like, I'm getting back to driving, I'm going out and doing things, like, I'm going out and meeting up with people, I'm going out with my family. I'm not reliant on other people. Like, I do need help sometimes, but I was just so scared at that point that I was never going to have a life that was my own anymore.
I'm really having some trouble identifying with myself. That kind of I'd started a video the other week about how when I was deleting text messages it made me feel kind of triggered and like that wasn't normal, but then it cut off and I then couldn't record the end of it because I didn't have storage on my phone and stuff like that. But when I think back to me before the accident, I am really disconnected from that person, and that's really fucking hard because it feels like only the last year and a bit belong to me. And I have memories sometimes and they're really good memories, but it just feels like it doesn't belong to me. It just feels like I know I'm not that person anymore, but I don't know why I feel so disconnected from it. Like, I don't know why memories that aren't in any way bad feel traumatic or triggering to me when I think about who I was, even in my last year of uni. And I don't know if it's because when I look back I realise how unwell I was and how much I was just trying to keep going. And nobody noticed. I didn't even notice. And then I'm worried now that I'm doing really bad and I'm just convincing myself that everything's fine, and then I'm going to look back in a few years and I'm going to go, no, you were actually in a really bad place and you were just telling everybody you were fine. I'm so sick of feeling like this. I'm so sick of not knowing who I am, not knowing who I was, not knowing who I'm going to be. And I don't know how to fucking deal with that. I just feel like I'm trying so fucking hard just to keep my head above the water. I'm so fucking tired. I'm so tired. There's something I've just realised. I know that some of my anxieties about me getting better are normal anxiety, like natural level of anxiety, because things have happened previously. Like, of course I'm going to be worried. However, I think the reason why, like, I'm so scared about not being able to work and letting all of that kind of spiral is because I've kind of accepted what I'm like just now. It has been that long that I've kind of just adjusted to how I'm living my life currently. And I think it's because I feel a bit too comfortable. Like, I don't want to be in this situation, but I know right now I can do things and I can keep myself safe and I can still see people and like, cool. But this isn't how I want to live my life. And I'm so fucking scared. Like, I'm so scared. It just, like, it pure fills me with dread because I'm like, when this thing comes off, that's when I start actually knowing what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of. And I'm really fucking scared. Because I just want to be happy. I just want to have my own flat and be working in nursing. Everything else, hopefully will just fall into place, but those are the two things that I want.
I mean, a year and a half later, and I'm in my own flat, and I'm happy. I'm not in nursing, and I don't know if I ever will be again because I don't know if it's a place for me anymore, but I'm here and I'm happy. So I guess I got that at least. This is another longer one.
And I'm really scared. But they won't bother. They won't care. I just keep feeling like I'm gonna be alone. I already feel so alone. I feel like there's nobody that can really know how I'm feeling right now. Unless they were in my shoes. And like nobody knows what to say to me or how to help me or how to comfort me because they've never had this situation before. And it just feels so lonely. And I'm so scared. On Wednesday, it's going to be longer. And it just feels like this is never ending. I know it takes time. I know the longer it's on, the better. Because my bone is 100% going to be fine. I just can't keep doing this. I can't keep feeling like this. I want to get outside of my room, outside of my house. I want to actually feel like I'm living my life. Because right now it just feels like I'm living for everybody else. I'm living to keep everybody else happy. I'm just surviving. I'm barely even doing that. It has to get better. I know I keep telling myself that it just has to get better. Tomorrow can't be any worse, right? Tomorrow has to be better than today. And I just need to get through this. One day at a time. I am loved.
podcast said that I was going to be raw and put everything out there on this podcast, and that is what I'm doing. Showing some of these videos when I recorded them, they were for myself or to let very close people know what was going on in my head, and it is me in a very vulnerable state, and that is not something that is an easy thing to do. And I know watching them back, it makes me feel some sort of way, and it kind of puts me back in the emotions that I was feeling at that time. But I know that the emotions that I was feeling at that time, that I'm not alone in what I was feeling. And I know that showing those videos and where I was at, that some people might resonate with that as where they are at that moment. And I hope that it makes you, if you are at that stage, it makes you feel a bit less lonely. I had another clinic appointment and I got my hopes up. I guess you could hear in those videos that I was really hoping for some good news. I know that wasn't my surgeon's intention to kind of give me false good news, but he had looked at the scans and he had said that they were looking really good, and if he was more charismatic that he would be confident in taking the frame off there and then. However, because of the complications that I had already had, he was wanting to err on the side of caution, and it was better to wait. I knew things were going in the right direction, and I thought it's okay, it's just going to be another 3 months. In October 2021, I finally got to meet Eleanor in person for the first time. Our friend Helly also surprised us by coming down from Inverness. I always laugh thinking about the first time that we met. Eleanor and our partner Jonathan hadn't arrived until like midnight, and by this point I was so tired, but I had been so excited for them coming when they were speaking. Although I had spoke to them so much on the phone and on FaceTime, my brain just couldn't process what they were saying in their accents. And I think it actually got to the point where I was like, I think we need to go to sleep and kind of revisit this in the morning, because I can't understand anything that you're saying right now. After we had had a sleep, Eleanor dyed my hair, and I think it took us about 6 hours in total. Almost like any time we hang out, it was like something out of a sitcom. I was sitting in front of Eleanor in my wheelchair, and she was behind me on the bed, and we were bleaching my hair and then putting colour on it, so we had to bleach it and then go wash it off in the kitchen sink and then come back and dye it. And initially I thought, oh, it's fine, my wheelchair will surely fit through the door, but of course it didn't, so I had to like stand up and hobble forward. Eleanor just managed to like fold up the chair and push it forward, and see, after that she was like, I think it was like the adrenaline that managed to get me through that. But before that had even happened, I was sitting in front of Eleanor in my wheelchair, and I had literally just been to pee before this had happened, and I can't even remember what she had said, but I just laughed so much that I ended up wetting myself. The cover on my wheelchair seat was waterproof, so it just collected into a little river, went right off the wheelchair and onto Eleanor's feet. And I think it was maybe like a few months ago we were talking, and she was like, that was the point I knew we were besties, because she pissed on my toes. And it was so chaotic. There was always chaotic energy. Eleanor is a fellow cripple, so there is definitely going to be a podcast episode with the both of us on it, which will definitely just be like peak chaotic energy. After we had finished being incontinent and dyeing my hair, B and Helly came over, and it was Halloween, and B had like makeup all down her face, and she said she was dressed up as a hot mess. It was one of those times where we were all together, and I just felt so accepted and seen and loved by the group of people that I was surrounded by. I have spoke about this a lot with my friends and with my family, that without the accident and the things that had happened, I don't think I would ever have been in a scenario where I would have met these people. I would have been working all of the hours that I could on a COVID ward and not had the time to be scrolling on Snapchat to see this group chat that I could join. I just don't think I would have ever been in a position where we would have met each other, and I am so grateful to be surrounded by people who give me so much love and acceptance, but can also call me out and hold me accountable when I need it, because that's what good friends do. Around this time, I got back into contact with the guy that had been in the car when I had my accident. And I am going to talk about this more in depth in episode 8, along with the kind of therapy trauma stuff that I mentioned previously in this episode. But for now, I am going to give you some basics. So he had come over once during COVID, and it was in between lockdowns. I can't really remember what we spoke about. I don't think he was there for very long, but it just kind of felt awkward, to be honest, in that moment. I didn't really know how to act, I guess. We didn't really seem to talk about a massive amount about the accident. However, when we met up this time, it was a bit less awkward. The first few times kind of blur into one, but I was very upfront when we started speaking that I had said, I realised that I had feelings for you when I was in the hospital and when I came out of the hospital, and those feelings are still there. So if this is something that you're not comfortable going forward with, knowing that information, I would rather know now, because I just want to be honest about where I'm going into it with you. I wanted to do things differently this time. I didn't want either of us to get hurt. However, no matter what I had done in the situation, I did, I think, everything that I could have to try and not hurt either of us. But I'm not able to control other people's actions, and I have very much learned that. We had conversations about the accident and about what each of us remembered. That was when he had told me that he felt as if somebody had just like kicked the tyres out from underneath the car when we had hit the ice. I could tell in these conversations how much blame he held on to because I was taking him to work. No matter how many times I told him that I didn't blame him, I don't think it went through. There were things that had happened, but that can't be changed now. You can't go back and not have it happening. It was like, yeah, in that instance, he could have remembered his phone and we would have went the other road and nothing would have happened. But I was still driving the car. I still decided to go that road. Anything else that happened after that moment was not in either of our control. Like, there was nothing that could have been done. But even now, he had come to see me even after we had split up, and I was in the hospital thinking about amputation, and I could tell in that there was a lot of guilt still there. No matter what I say, I don't think it is ever going to change his perception of that. I can remember talking about the accident and talking about the guilt, and me saying that I really believe that the accident happened for a reason, and even if I wasn't taking him to work when I was going to work later that day, I think something would have happened. There was going to be some massive change in my life that was putting me on to where I was meant to be a better person. And he had said, do you really believe that? And I was like, well, I do. And I believe that because it's the one thing that is getting me through this moment. Because if the accident happened for nothing, then I can't bear that. I can't deal with that. This has to have happened for a better reason, to put me somewhere better in my life. Because if it was all for nothing, then I'm done and I'm going to kill myself. That was like, it is either those two extremes. It felt like he kind of understood a little. Although he was extremely lucky in his injuries, he was still there when the accident happened. I have come to realise that just because he was there, that doesn't mean we were soulmates or that we were ever meant to be together. It means we're trauma bonded. I gave space and time for the relationship we had for 8 months, but it was fucking rough. Through that, I can never take away the gratitude that I have for the encouragement that he gave me to get out of the house again. We started slowly by going for walks, going to the garage to buy some snacks, getting on the train and going a short distance, getting on the bus, going to the cinema. And it was hard. It took a lot. And there was a lot of anxiety being back out in the world. And it was really daunting. And there was a lot of people that would come up and ask what had happened. But he was very supportive through that. He was very encouraging to get me out of the house. I really struggle looking back on it to see if it was out of love or if it was out of that guilt that he was feeling. I would like to think that it was out of love, but I'm never really going to know, I don't think. I had a clinic appointment on my birthday where I spent most of the day waiting for scans and then transport, and I didn't even get to see my surgeon, but it was his registrar that had came in. He had said, I don't think I've met you before, but I've certainly heard a lot about you, which made me chuckle because it's not the first time that a medical professional has said that to me. And I know it is because, like, it's a rare thing to happen, so they chat about it a lot, but it kind of made me laugh. At this appointment, I had said that at the time I had got my infection and I was thinking about getting the second frame on. I had said that I didn't know how much longer that I could do this for, and I was really reaching that breaking point of, I'm done. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. The registrar had told me that if I wanted to go down the route of amputation, that was an option, but they probably wouldn't perform it unless something had gone wrong. At this point, I was thinking that the last year and a half that I have just put myself through with this second frame, this can't be for nothing. Anniversary 2 came around and it was a little bit easier. My friends came over the night before because my birthday was 4 days before I had the accident. We had cake and we played some games. Then the next day on the anniversary, me and my ex, we spent it together. We had been out and bought some cheap plates and we had one plate each where we wrote things on it that we were angry about the accident or any feelings that we had to go out, like get out. And then we went out the back and smashed those plates and I had a scream and it felt really good to kind of let out that energy. And then later on in the day, it had been horrible weather. It was very rainy, very, very windy. I'm pretty sure there was like a weather warning in place. But we went out in my wheelchair and we went down to the pier, sat at the end of the pier, and it was just darkness and wind and rain, but it just felt so nice to have that feeling in my body and being out in nature and sitting at the end of that pier and just having a big, massive scream to let out all of the feelings that I was feeling on that day. It was easier, yes, but it was still just really hard because it was 2 years later. And although I was trying to kind of do things a bit more, it just felt like I was still at the very beginning. And I think that is where I'm going to leave it for today. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Cripple Chronicles podcast. Next week, I am going to be talking about things at the end of 2021, the start of 2022, and the timeline of post-accident, thinking about considering amputation again and getting back out into the world and physio and orthotics input. It has been a little bit of a longer episode today. I guess that makes up for the 22-minute rant episode. So I hope you have enjoyed this week's episode. Please comment, like, subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on listening platforms, give me a follow on TikTok and on Instagram. And if there is anything that you would like to get in contact with me about, please write an email to cripplecechroniclespod@gmail.com. I will see you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.